This is our May Portfolio Lead Office Hour. And today in our meeting, just want to remind you that if any AI tools are trying to join the meeting, we will have to deny those. We are not allowed to have AI tools attend meetings. So please don't attempt to use those tools. The Educator Effectiveness team is Amy Floyd. Myself, with me today is Micah Fager, and also we have our teammate Sarah Brown. Amy and Sarah could not be with us today. In our meeting today, I'm going to share with you how to analyze your teacher's portfolio scores in the platform, and Micah's going to talk to you about a survey. We'll wrap it up with next steps and your support. So let's just jump right in today with how to review your teacher reports in the platform. So notice here that you have the teacher report in your district administrator tab reports. You have the collection report and the samples report. Prior to the teacher scores being released, you have little access in the collection, and I don't believe you have access at all to samples right now. Once scores are released to you, you will have all three of these reports. So in our training today, I'm going to show you what your reports will look like once peer review is over and scores are released. So if you try to look at these reports today, they're not going to have this information, but you will have all of this information after scores are released to you. So the first report we're going to look at today is the teacher report. When you click on the teacher report, you can see your teacher's portfolio scores and the teacher growth score. And I'll talk about the difference between those two scores. You'll need to click download CSV on the dashboard to pull up the Excel sheet to get this information. When you pull up your Excel sheet, you'll see the portfolio score here and the teacher growth score here. So the portfolio score is the average, and I'll show you here. The portfolio score is the average of the 4 collections. And then once you take that portfolio score, you apply it to this chart to get the final growth score. And that final growth score is what goes into T-Encompass for the teacher's 35%. And it will be in their box that says portfolio. If a teacher is incomplete, and you can already see that in your teacher report, they will not get a growth score in that box, and you'll see the incomplete status. Teachers that are incomplete will get the word incomplete in T-Encompass in their growth score box for portfolio, and those teachers will not generate an LOE. So I'm going to go back to that chart just to give you a second to look at this. You see all of these teachers are complete, but if you happen to have had a teacher, that was incomplete, it would say incomplete and you would not see any scores here. Again, the average of the 4 collections is in this portfolio score column. And then the growth score, so you can see here, this is a 3.75. So the portfolio score, the growth score is a 4. If you look at the chart that I shared with you, 3.75 falls right in this range. So that's where the portfolio score of a 4 comes from. As I'm going through today, remember, if you have any questions, if you'll drop those in the chat, Michael will read those to me at the end. The next report I want to talk to you about is your collection report. And then once again, you can't see these scores or this information until after the release date. But on this report, you'll be able to see the teacher's self-score, and this is for a collection. You'll be able to see, and I've blacked out for privacy these teachers' names, but you'll be able to see what collection. Remember, every teacher has 4 collections, so you'll be able to see what collection and what standard that teacher chose. And then this self-score is the teacher's average for the collection. then you'll be able to look and see what the first peer reviewer scored that collection as. And we talked about how the process for whether it goes to 2 peer reviewers or an expert peer reviewer. I believe that was in our March office hours, if you need to refer back to that. But as a quick reminder, you'll see in this first one, the teacher's gross score for that collection was 5. The first peer reviewer was 5. That is in consensus, which means within one of each other. So that teacher's final gross score for that collection is a 5. Then you'll notice down here an example of the teacher's self-score for the growth was a 3. The first peer reviewer's gross score was a 5 for that collection. So that is 2 levels apart. So that's not consensus. That's why it went to a second peer reviewer. The second peer reviewer, the average growth for that collection for that teacher is a 4. A 4 is actually in consensus with both the first peer reviewer, they're within 1. It's also within 1 of the teacher. So the second peer reviewer score stands. So you will see here that that collection score, gross score, is a 4. You'll notice down here an example of, so if there's nothing in expert, if there's nothing in peer reviewer 2, it means it was in consensus at the first time. Here's an example of a collection that needed to go to expert review. The teacher's average gross score for that collection is 5. The first peer reviewer's average was 3. That's not consensus within 1, so it went to a second. The second peer reviewer's average score was 1 for this collection. So you can see that these are all off from each other. The second peer reviewer's out of consensus with the first and the teacher. So that's why it went to a third reviewer, the expert reviewer. The expert reviewer's score always stands. So you will see the expert reviewer is actually in consensus with the second reviewer. So that's why the gross score for this collection is a 1. But again, even if this expert review was out of consensus with anyone, if it had been a different number, the expert reviewer's score always stands. There's my arrows. Here's an example of how that score that I was just sharing with you, the gross score, is calculated for a collection. For a collection, every collection has, for most every collection, we know in fine arts you have some groups, and in PE you have 6 samples, but for the most part, there's 3 students, emerging, proficient, and advanced. And the collections growth is calculated by finding the difference between A and B for each of the student work samples, and then averaging that to get the growth for that collection. So, for example, if the student work at A was a 3 and the student work at a B is also a 3, 3 minus 3 is 0. So that would be no growth, and which would be a 1 in the average. If A is a 2 and let's say B is a 4, 4 minus 2 is 2. So 2 levels of growth would be a 4 for the growth average. So that's how this is determined. The difference between A and B for the 3, and then getting that average. And then that's where that growth comes from for the collection. In your samples report, you can see what score the teacher gave point A, what score the teacher gave point B. You can see what score the peer reviewer gave point A, what score the peer reviewer gave point B for each person that scored. So if it went to just one peer reviewer, it would be first review. So you can see here, this column in your samples report will say review number. So that's how you know. If it was the teacher, the word teacher will be here. That's the self-score. If there's a 1, that means it's the first peer reviewer score. Here you'll see a 2 in this box for review number. That means it was the second reviewer. And if you see a 3 in the box, that means that's the expert reviewer's score for A and B. I pulled up here an example of a not scorable because you know what the scores 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 would represent on the growth. But if a peer reviewer, and we talked about this at the March portfolio office hour too. On that slide, it shows you reasons that student work will not be scored or cannot be scored. This year in this platform, you will be able to tell when teachers ask you, why did I get a certain number for this collection? Why did this collection score low? Not scorable at A and B is a growth score. Going back to looking at this, no growth. So the score for that collection is actually a 1, but we want you to know that it was not a 1 because of the student work being at a 3 at point A and a 3 at point B. It was scored a level 1 because the peer reviewer could not score it. And then you have in this last column the feedback. So when a teacher says to you, well, why was it not scored? You don't have to guess or assume. You can look directly on this report and say to this teacher, you used the same student in more than one sample. So it clearly in this one, the peer reviewer marked it not scorable because let's say it was the exact same student was used in emerging that was used in proficient. You can't use the same student in more than one sample. In this one, in this one that was scored not scorable, the feedback is the evidence is not aligned to the standard. So for example, in kindergarten, there's a counting standard that says writes numbers to 20 and counts numbers of objects and writes the number. Well, if they did not assess that, or they didn't assess both parts, then that's evidence that that assessment is not aligned to the standard. Another example would be in PE if the standard is dribbling and then they uploaded student work of overhand throw, that's not aligned to the standard. This one is scored not scorable because the next one is scored not scorable because the student is not the same at A and B. The students have to be the same at point A and point B. And in this case, the student was different at point B than they were at point A. If a teacher uploaded student work, and we see this every now and then, that says maybe the teacher wrote on a blank sheet of paper, the child could not do anything. Well, that's not scorable. You can't upload a blank piece of paper. Every child can do something, even if it's scribble. Also, if the video was blank, or if it was a video maybe that you can't see anything, you can't see the kids, you can't hear anything, that would be not scorable. If the video is not there and it's an oral assessment, then that's not scorable. And you'll see here's an example where it says no video of the oral assessment. There's in many of the pre-K, K and 1, it's going to say oral assessment. So if a teacher uploads paper and does not upload the student talking, the video that is required, that would be not scorable. Not following the assessment guidance is a common one for, we see that a lot in PE when the teacher did not follow the guidelines, but we also see that in all the models, because the rubrics will tell teachers exactly how you should be assessing this standard. So if they don't follow that guidance, that's not scorable if they can't score it. And then the last one is that required answer key is missing. There are many standards that have in the rubric required method of evidence answer key. So if the teacher didn't upload an answer key, peer reviewers cannot score it. So that's, and you can see here that this one that says no answer key went to 2 reviewers. And again, there's some standards without an answer key, it cannot be scored. So you will be able to tell your teachers exactly why something wasn't able to be scored. Before I pass it to Micah to talk about this survey, Micah, do we have any questions that I should answer?
None in the chat so far.
Okay, good. Okay, then I'm gonna toss it over to you, Micah.
You'll need to run my slides still.
I sure will.
All right, and it's that time of year again. As part of our ongoing commitment to excellence, the Educator Effectiveness Team invites you to share your valuable feedback with us. Your insights play a crucial role in shaping our evaluation support services and ensuring that they meet your needs effectively. So you will be receiving this on our office hours webpage. You will also be receiving an email with the link to this. If you serve in more than one role in your district, you are able to complete this survey more than once because each role, it has a question in there for you to select your role. When you select that role, the logic takes place and each role will produce a different set of questions that relate to the work in that role and the support that we provide for that role. So we welcome feedback from administrators, evaluators, portfolio or AGM leads, teacher leaders, or anyone who assists educators with observations. We seek feedback from recognition contacts, differentiated pay contacts, and directors of schools. So if you receive this email and someone you know who would be able to provide us quality feedback, you are more than welcome to forward this survey to them. We are welcoming any and all feedback. Like I said, it drives our work on our team, and we want to make sure that the support that we give is efficient and effective. And so we have to hear from you if we need to change something or if we're doing well in something. We like to hear that too. If you would like for us to consider your feedback as we're making changes for the next school year, I'd appreciate it if you would give us your feedback by July 1st, 2025. The feedback survey will stay open, but it'll be harder for us to implement your suggestions if we don't receive it before this time. And again, I appreciate any and all feedback, and we appreciate you helping our educators.
Thank you, Micah. So our next steps as we are winding up this school year of implementation for portfolio is once your teacher scores are released to you, please review those scores. When you look at your scores, if you have any questions, email portfolio.questions and let us know. If you have a question about a teacher's score, if you feel like after you've checked all those 3 reports that something may not look right, you'll have the scores at least a week in advance before we release them to teachers. So look over those. If you have a question or you're concerned about something in a teacher's score, when you email portfolio questions, include the teacher's name and what collection you want us to investigate. And we will look at it very, very carefully to see if maybe there is an error or if there's something that we can explain to you before the teachers receive their scores. Because we know that once teachers get their scores, they're going to reach out to you. If they reach out to us first, we're going to send them back to you to answer their questions first. So we want to give you all the tools you need to be able to help teachers understand their portfolio scores. I'm going to email you when the scores are ready. Peer review is underway now, and it's going very well. Peer review ends on June the 13th, and then it will take us a few weeks after peer review is over to analyze the data ourselves on our team and look for anything that may be a questionable, and then they'll be released to you. So as soon as they're ready, I will send you an email and you'll know that they're ready for you to check in the platform. And then finally, if you'll complete that survey, as Micah said, we do value your feedback and we take it very serious, and we will read all of the comments. So please complete that survey for us. If you need anything, you always can email portfolio.questions around portfolios. But if you have any other questions around LOEs or evaluation, email team.questions. If you have questions about the TVOS roster verification, we have RV questions at tn.gov. And then at the department, there's other emails here on this slide that you can reach out to if you have licensure, PDP questions, TASL questions, any questions around the Universal Reading Screener or assessment in general. Thank you for a great year. Thank you for attending today. And if there's anything we can do for you, please reach out. And I'm going to toss it back to you, Micah. We're done a little early, so if you have questions, if you want to put those in the chat, it seems to be a pretty small group. If you want to come off mute and ask a question, we can just take a few moments for a Q&A if you have any. Do you have any in the chat first, Micah?
Currently, there are no questions in the chat.
Okay. Well, if you don't have questions, you're free to go. If you want to stay on and ask anything, Micah and I are available to stay on a little bit longer if you have some questions.